Your hosts today are the Community Development and Health Network, who are a regional infrastructure organisation working on the ground with local communities and across sectors taking action on social determinants of health. Their aim is to improve health and well-being and to reduce health inequalities. The organisation, the organisation works with communities to identify their own health and social needs and have a specific focus on those people who experience the most disadvantage or are most easily excluded. And I know that a lot of people on the call today, that would very much be your values and your heart as well. And the Community Development Health Network has over 30 years experience and it's a membership organisation, has over 2,400 individuals and over 110 community and voluntary sector organisations with an extensive reach across Northern Ireland. So this project that we're part of today is the Voice, Equality, Experience and Power, also known as VEEP. And the whole idea was to try and build a community development approach to mental health and poverty, bringing together people from the north and the south who are working in all different aspects. So we've really tried over the series of this project to give people a real flavour of the diversity of stuff that's going on in the ground, where people are trying to really address social determinants of health and address poverty using all sorts of creative and other methods. So obviously in the north, there are so many issues going on, obviously across the board, but a lot of the impact of poverty and structural inequalities are most acute, as we all know, in deprived areas and among underrepresented population groups, including carers, young people, the LGBTQIA plus community, and people affected by violence and intergenerational trauma. A lot of the key social determinants like income, education and employment status obviously play a huge role in shaping the mental health and the well-being of communities across our island. So this project is really to bring together people to try and find solutions and try and go further upstream to find different ways of addressing these issues. It's a partnership between the Community Development and Health Network and the Community Development Mental Health Network, hosted by Community Work Ireland. So this was it's supported with very much thanks to the St Stephen's Green Trust, and specifically their Strengthening Democracy Through Civic Engagement and Participation programme. So the connection is really a platform to connect people from the north and south to dialogue, share learning, insights and experiences, and use our collective influence to amplify the voices of people experiencing poverty, inequality and mental ill health, ensuring that we have inclusion, equal participation in health decision making. So very much a co-design and co-produced approach. But on the ground level, this is really about building relationships, and that's why these seminars are so vital as well. So it's about establishing a diverse partnership network that we can all then draw on, that promotes shared values of inclusivity, compassion, respect and equality. But basically looking at crucial human rights-based, trauma-informed community development responses to community mental health in policy and practice. So that is the context that we're taking place today. Eleanor has already outlined what we're doing. So I would like to currently switch heads. I have two hats on today. I'm the Client Engagement Manager at MindWise, but I'm also the Chief Executive of ESE Films. So I would like to introduce my colleague Tom Magill, who's the Artistic Director of ESE Films, to talk about a collaborative project working within mental health that we did in partnership with MindWise itself, Action Mental Health, ESE Films, and was kindly funded by the Bearing Foundation and by LFT Charitable Foundation. And I'd just like to say thank you to both Aisling and David, who I can see on the call today. So thank you so much for joining us. And just to flag up as well that we will be showing a film. It's only 3 minutes long during the presentation. And in case you've got any tech issues, I will pop it into the chat. So thank you, Tom Magill, Artistic Director, ESE Films, if you'd like to start your 15-minute slot. Thank you.
Thanks, Kirsten. So as Kirsten said, my name is Tom Magill, and I'm the co-founder and artistic director of ESE Films in Belfast. We're an educational charity, and I started the company to empower marginalised people to find their voice and tell their story through creativity. Poverty is the mother of crime. Marcus Aurelius said that 180 AD, so not much has changed. I was 19 years old. I'd just been sentenced for a violent felony. I was in a dispersal prison waiting to be allocated, and scratched on the door of my cell were the names of 12 people that I recognized from my housing estate. That was on a landing with 24 cells in total. At that moment, I knew that somehow society grows its own criminals. I had no education, no qualifications, no political theory, just a deep sense of injustice, rage, and anger. My journey to prison had already taken me through the familiar steps of abandonment, poverty, bullying, racism, self-hatred, failure, shame, addiction, violence, and stigma before reaching the terminus of imprisonment. Later, I would learn the ironic name of these adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, and I had a handful. My thesis is that when we find the courage to create, own, and share our traumatic story, the urge to self-medicate with drink or drugs dissolves. We realize we're not alone. We discover other people share similar problems. And it is here we can find a community of support where we can recover together. Creativity and storytelling return to people what they have lost: their pride, dignity, humanity, sense of control, their agency, hope, community, and their future. The power of creativity and the power of story are for us to take back what we have been denied: our voice. I grew up in poverty. Loyalist, North Belfast, working class poverty is cold, wet, hungry, and grey. Poverty is brutal and unkind. Poverty breeds shame. I wore plastic sandals to school in winter. I felt worthless. I escaped through books. I went to the library and read. The teacher said I could go to the grammar school if I passed the 11 plus. She was confident in me. My mum looked at the list of kit to buy for the grammar school. She was a cleaner. We couldn't afford it. I knew many of the 11 plus questions, but I didn't write them down. I chose secondary school, the cheaper option. My mum was Catholic, my dad was a prod. We moved to England to escape the conflict. I was physically bullied by a teacher there, and who set the whole class against me for being Irish. I left school at 15 with no qualifications, just a deep sense of rage and loss. The traumas and adverse childhood experiences lead many people like me to a pipeline of addiction, self-medication, serious mental health conditions, and imprisonment. Through my own lived experience, I've found that the best way to break the destructive cycle is through creativity and storytelling. I was a felon, now I'm a filmmaker. Brené Brown said, when we deny the story, it defines us. When we own the story, we can write a brave new ending. What are the benefits of owning your traumatic story? For a large part of my life, I denied mine because it's easier, but it doesn't heal, it doesn't disappear, it doesn't go away, and it has costs. I got a job, but the person who hired me knew I was an ex-prisoner, and they exploited me. I worked double the hours I was paid for as they dumped their work on me. Then I published an article owning my prison backstory. My colleague told me my boss read it and slammed the book shut. They'd lost their power over me. Owning a story you're ashamed of is hard. It takes courage, but I think it's healthier and it can lead to recovery and healing. My creative process was born in my prison cell. Own who you are, own what you've done, own your story. I started to write. The act of writing is transformative. It brings the past to the present. It unlocks insight and understanding from repeated patterns of behavior. It creates distance between the painful event and the current reflection. Our hands are connected to our heart. What's in our heart is expressed through our hand in writing. Becoming the author of your own story is about making choices. Giving yourself the power of choice is agency and action. We feel better. When we own our story, we can begin to make peace with our past. I no longer transferred my pain and suffering onto others through violence. Instead, I transformed it through creativity. Creativity became my escape from destruction. I did my first exams in prison. When I got out, I went to university to study drama. And what I learned from my mentor, Augusto Boal, who became a patron of VSC Films, is to lead by example. I share my vulnerability first before inviting others to do the same. That might be my relevant lived experience. This sharing helps build rapport, trust, community, and helps create a safe space to take risks without judgment or fear. Isolation is a major challenge for people within addiction and mental health settings, especially forensic mental health. We create culture when we share stories and food together. People have described the benefit of our creative storytelling process as getting the bullet out of the wound, getting the poison out of my system, getting the monkey off my back. These are the metaphors that people we work with use to describe the transformational process of creating and sharing their traumatic story. What I discovered in my prison cell was that putting my thoughts and feelings on paper was a powerful way to understand and deal with my challenging situation. Give me a different perspective. Seeing my words on paper, despite my circumstances, it gave me insight, clarity, and control. Writing gave me the hope to create a different story, to imagine a different ending, as Brené Brown said. That's our invitation to the people we work with in addiction and mental health services, particularly forensic mental health, who face many, many barriers. External barriers like structural inequalities. But what does that mean? It just means that life is fixed. The game of life is fixed, and the rich get richer while the poor, us, get poorer. Poverty, deprivation, severe and enduring mental health diagnoses, isolation, lack of education, and often a lack of hope. Internalized oppressions. People with traumatic histories often absorb the negative messaging of the abuse they suffer. They develop stories about their limited options and ability to achieve, and then pass on those ideas as intergenerational trauma. Shame, self-hatred, self-doubt, self-sabotage, self-medication. All of these are the barriers many people face. Brené Brown said, if we can share our story with someone who responds with empathy and understanding, shame can't survive. 99% of the people we work with in forensics choose to write about their traumatic experience. When we confront what we're afraid or ashamed to confront, when we finally face it and name it and get it out of our head and onto the page, it loses some of its power. It's outside of us. We can begin to control it instead of it controlling us. Creative expression is cathartic. And once one person shares their traumatic story, others follow. It has a domino effect. Snakes and Ladders was a trauma-informed peer mentoring project with a group of people with lived experience of substance abuse and mental health issues. Project, as Kirsten said, was funded by LFT Charitable Foundation in partnership with MindWise and Action Mental Health. The project created a series of short films co-produced by us, ESC Films, and the links are in the chat. We ran 8 3-hour group sessions with participants in March and June 2023. We began a process of devising and scripting personal stories. The theme was around drawing on our lived experience of sliding down a snake of addiction or mental health diagnosis, and then creating a ladder to climb out of the pit of addiction or despair. The aim of the project is to give strategies and hope to people who are struggling with similar addiction. The film we're about to watch now is called Book Ladder. Books provided the ladder that Johnny needed to climb out of the pit of heroin addiction. And Eleanor is going to play the film for us all. So basically, technology is great when it works, isn't it? But it's on our website. And, just have a look at Snakes and Ladders on esc-film.com. But Kirsten's put it in the chat. Just to say, we made 3 powerful short films documenting the journey in and out of addiction, along with a documentary. So it's all on the website. Launched the project, the MAC, and with over 100 people, including friends, family, and healthcare professionals. Johnny, who made the film, said, the project's been inspiring and educational for me. After the honeymoon period, every addict hits rock bottom. And Johnny's wish was that other people would see the film and realize there is a way out of addiction. Jeff said, addiction's only a byproduct of mental health. Kevin said, support from your peer group helps your recovery journey. These stories and films are informing, educating, and inspiring people going forward. For me, this project is a call to action to people who are using drugs to show them there is another way, and it'll give them hope to climb out of the pit of their own addiction. Jeff said, I'm glad to get the opportunity to do this. It was like therapy for me. I really enjoyed it. And Jeff's mom said, "I never thought I'd see the day when Jeff is clean and taking driving lessons." So it was a hugely beneficial experience for all of us. So finally, I just want to say it's my experience that creativity and storytelling can heal people in their recovery, and it provides comfort and relief during times of trauma, pain, and suffering. I want to leave you with a quote that I think summarizes this beautifully. Art is to console those who are broken by life. That's Vincent van Gogh. And I think that includes us all. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Tom. And thank you everybody for sticking with the technical problems, but everything's in the chat so you can catch up afterwards if you weren't able to see it this time. So from film to poetry, I'd really like to invite our next speaker, Adele Leahy from Dublin, who is a writer and poet who's talking about her poetry project with the Recovery College. And apologies that it is a short 5-minute whistle-stop tour, but you will get a chance to talk to Adele in the breakout rooms. So Adele, over to you.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. Will I share the presentation or no? That's great. Eleanor's sharing it. Yeah, my name is Adele Leahy, and I'm an expert by experience with mental health and also 5 years in recovery. And I was a nurse for 34 years before commencing my writing journey in full in 2019. So I've been teaching workshops in Dublin City University. And throughout my life, most particularly in the last 10 years, I have found that poetry is well, just poetry and writing in general is a very, very powerful cathartic tool for me. Yeah, so and apologies if I might be echoing some of what Tom has said, but I think it's been recognized now around the world how art can be extremely effective in helping us get over trauma, and just in basically, like I'm just going to move something here so I can see, in processing emotions. And I just kind of say through the distillation of thoughts, and it's person-centered, and connectedness is a huge thing. I mean, obviously with addiction, isolation and loneliness are some of the worst things. And when we get together, whether it's by Zoom or in person, which is always excellent as well, which is better. It's just what I've noticed in delivering the courses is that barriers are let down, and in sharing our vulnerability and our own stories for those who are willing to do that. It just, in being vulnerable, it actually inevitably brings strength. And that's probably one of my favorite quotes. And it was his birthday a few weeks ago, William Ernest Henley. It's from Invictus: "I am the master of the fate, and I am the captain of my soul." So we can write our own story. I just want to see if I can. Apologies now. So how can poetry heal? I was going to mention a poem by Rumi that I would recommend you to read. The Guest House. I can't read my notes because I'm in I'm in the presentation. But it's quite a famous poem, and to me it basically encapsulates mental health for me, because it talks about the mind as being a guest house and opening the door. And I can open the door this morning and there's depression, and then I can open it in the afternoon and there's, elation or joy or guilt or shame or self-hatred. And each of those need to be met with the same greeting. And there's also another line in another poem. It's "If" by Rudyard Kipling, and it refers to triumph and disaster and treating them both the same. And that's how poetry works for me, is that it does seem to summarize a lot of psychology and a lot of philosophy and stoicism as well. So I think you can get it. Obviously, there's the huge mindfulness aspect of it, And I've always said, my favorite saying is that you're basically taking what's in your mind, you're bringing it down here, down along your arm, out through your fingers, in through the pen and onto the page. And the word spell, we spell words, but the reason we have the word spell to spell words is they cast a spell, and they can be a good spell. And what I say is that, for me, it can dispel my doom. It can dispel my worried thoughts. Um, and I've always used it as a cathartic tool. Down to 10 years ago, a poem I wrote and that got published was just called Tech Talk. And it was really just about my feelings about social media. And that's still 10 years later, no different. It's lots of people like it. But it's weird that I wrote it 10 years ago and it seems to be more apt now than it ever was. Um, and then, sorry, I'm just kind of, because I've got people's, yeah. So it definitely helps for me to reduce anxiety and stress. Because like I said, I'm just taking it out of my mind. My favorite word is catharsis, actually. And I think that kind of explains a lot of it. And then with regards to increasing self-confidence, just the act of sharing, like Tom was saying, just taking ownership of my story and my thoughts. And, there is a branch of poetry and it's called confessional poems. And that's where, people from Sylvia Plath to many other authors have just been very raw and very deep and very dark. But in sharing their poetry, it has helped people. Like poetry on grief, when people can share their grief and then you read a poem about grief that resonates with you. Sometimes your feelings are just all over the place and you see all these words put together and it's like, wow, it really does help to kind of process with the emotions. And it also cultivates connection and fosters empathy, because particularly when we're sharing our stories as experts by experience, as people that are survivors, as people that are in recovery, it's beyond powerful. Like I always remember as a child when I was listening to the priest in church going, really, what do you know about what's happening at home? You have no clue. You're not married. You don't see it. And I was a very young kid when I thought that. And that's why, in the years since I've discovered the Recovery College and what it does for people and working with them, just listening and working with my peers, one of the most powerful things is it also takes egos out of the equation. It's like, because we've all been there, we've all kind of walked through the gates of hell, whether it's through substance use or whether it's through mental health, and we're finding tools to come out the other side. So like I mentioned before, it can combat loneliness and isolation. From the first time we did our course, we just at the end of it, we all it was like just food for the soul. And actually, obviously, poetry is also known as the language of the soul. And we were able to connect and just kind of chat about our
Sorry, Adele,
experiences.
I'm just going to
Yeah.
give you your 1 minute warning.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Nearly there now. And yeah, like when we're sharing experiences, we become stronger. Also with regards to poetry, needless to say, it helps our critical thinking, it helps our mental agility, our vocabulary, our memory. And I was reading some research this morning, and it actually helps with it's staving off. It can prevent dementia. People say you can use Sudoku and crosswords, but poetry is no different, and it does help in staving off Alzheimer's. So when I do the workshops, we basically start off with, what is poetry? What is it to you? Structured, unstructured, from the haikus, which are, 5 syllables, 7 syllables, just 3 short ones. And then there's lots of different types of poets, as we know, and sonnets. And nowadays, actually, I'm hugely involved in the movement of spoken word. So, I mean, it's huge, particularly it's north, south. And there's European and there's worldwide spoken word competitions. And Obviously, in the workshop, we do prompts and free writing, and we can share or not share. It's up to how you feel. So basically, in summary, poetry can be whatever you want it to be. There's no rules or limitations in how you wish to express yourself. Just express yourself. Write it down. Meditate, create, repeat. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Adele. I could listen to you all day. I hope that I get to be in the same room as you.
Thank you.
Moving swiftly on to Nisha Tandon, who is up here in Belfast with us, who runs ArtsEkta, who do such an amazing and diverse creative range of things. So, Nisha, do you want to tell us a little bit about some of the projects that you're working on?
Thank you, Kirsten, for this lovely introduction, and thank you, Eleanor and Joanne, for having me. It gives me a great opportunity here and a pleasure to talk about our two very big projects. Sorry, I don't have any lovely presentations as Tom and Adele had, but sure, we can share through the links maybe later on. So my first project is about little Amal, who was the Belfast 2024 commission, which Belfast City Council gave to ArtsEkta to produce quite a lot of different events in East, West, South, and North Belfast. And we had this opportunity to welcome little Amal, who was a 10-year-old Syrian child lost. And ArtsEkta's work with refugee and asylum on everyday basis was the right fit for us to deliver a beautiful one element of that huge project. And that was called Big Dreams. And in that Big Dreams, we had creatives who got together for so many months to see what we can do. And we came up with an idea that little Amal, once she's done the whole journey of Belfast, now she needs to go to sleep somewhere. So the sleeping area, which we thought was St. Anne's Cathedral, is the best way for her to put to sleep. In order to put to sleep, we are very much so well known for our music and storytelling and putting kids to sleep via lullaby. So Katie Richardson, a famous musician, and our lovely Nandi Jola, the writer, got together and we produced a lullaby. But in order to have that lullaby, you also need to have a blanket or somewhere where little Amal could go and sleep coziness. So we thought of what can we do? So we produced this huge, massive, about 14 foot by 24 feet long, 14 by 24 foot long patchwork quilt. And each patch was designed, delivered by our refugee and asylum ladies from East, West, North, and South of Belfast. And the two main artists who were behind the scenes working with these ladies was Emma Whitehead from Top Floor Art and Bridget Pullen. Now, the ladies who we work in ArtsEkta are about 20 of them, and they come from all walks of life and the trauma they have gone through, so we thought that this is really going to help them to bring the messages out in their own languages on that quilt, and they did. They brought beautiful messages in their own languages, remembering their own countries, remembering those camps where they were and what they are going through. So, so the messages which came out were very personal, of trauma, displacement, lost voices, vulnerability, no support, mental health up to their bottom level. And it's just opened so many other conversations. and they just made that quilt, and they wanted to have that sense of belonging within Belfast, and also create some hope for their own vulnerable lives, what go through. So honestly, it was such a beautiful project. And when we displayed that in St. Anne's Cathedral, the women took that pride to lift that quilt and put it over little Amal, and just sing with everybody else. And the atmosphere was just so powerful. And that has also, that little project, now they meet here every Tuesday and Thursday, but that little project gave them self-confidence. Other people watching their project being displayed in different areas of Northern Ireland. It went to so many museums. It just gave them that they can do something, you know, and now they are such a beautiful creators. They create, they bring in their own ideas together, and create. And anybody wants to come and meet these ladies, you're more than welcome to come and meet them on Tuesdays and Thursdays and see how they talk about their weekly traumatic experience within the areas where they're living in, and also how coming together in one shared space, in one room, can help each other to solve those issues which they carry in their hearts and minds. And for me, it is very powerful. And I will keep on doing this type of work to give these ladies more and more opportunities. So that was one project, which was just
sorry,
talking
Nisha,
about.
I'm just going to interrupt you. I'm just giving you your 1 minute warning as well.
Okay, and then the other one is just a quick one, which is about dementia, which is happening within our older people from minority ethnic background who have come here in 1950s and have got beautiful memories of their own countries and what they contributed. So we produced a project, the first phase of the project, called Garden of Memories. And in that, they are producing everything with their recycle and bringing all their memories together. And it has exhibited in 2 Royal Avenue, and there were only 2 main artists who worked behind the scenes, and there were 78 older people living all over Northern Ireland. So yeah, there's a lot of projects which goes on and on, but my message is let's keep doing, because this helps their health and well-being, and that's my great message for everybody. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I'm a couple of minutes over.
Oh, you're good. Thank you so much, Nisha. And we had the privilege of being in St. Anne's Cathedral the night of Little Amal and watching the women carry out the quilt. And there was this magical moment when they put the quilt over the puppet. It was just phenomenal. So well done, Nisha. Thank you so much indeed. So our final speaker in the panel presentation is Jeroen Holtkamp from Mind Freedom Ireland, who's talking about a community growing project, and then we'll move into our panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Jeroen, you should be able to share your own presentation there. Great. Jeroen, you're on mute. You need to unmute yourself.
Oh. So thank you, Kirsten. Thank you, Eleanor, for giving me, providing me this opportunity to talk about Know What You Eat. It's a group format that sustains reconnection with nature and social integration efforts. Okay. Oh. Yes. So, no.
I can't hear anything.
Yes, okay. Okay, my name is Jeroen Holtkamp. I'm a homeopathic practitioner and social entrepreneur. As a person with lived experience of psychiatric abuse, I promote social inclusion of the marginalized. I represent Mind Freedom Ireland, and Mind Freedom Ireland is a group of people who took ownership of their own life by sharing our stories among each other and by fighting for rights against injustice perpetrated by the state and the psychiatric institutions. At this lake, I had an euphoric moment with Mother Earth when drinking her water, guided by my angels. Living in Westmeath, and me and my family discovered the importance of reconnecting with nature. What makes us feel alive is invisible. The source of our lust for life is called the vital force in homeopathy, prana in Ayurveda medicine, and the chi in traditional medicine, in traditional Chinese medicine. So it's a new group format based on faith, hope, and charity, or I call it the FHC group format. It's a new group format that promotes social inclusion and almost instantly. I facilitate 3 self-help groups. One is called Dilemmas in Care. Another one is called Listen to Your Heart, which is amalgamated with Mind Freedom Ireland. And next, I will give you an example of the new group format and its outcomes in Know What You Eat. So, growing vegetables organically is a way to reconnect with nature and each other. In June 2019, we had the opening of the school allotment. We established 4 wheelchair accessible raised beds, surrounded by fence and an optional polytunnel. The FHC group format applied in Know What You Eat. Faith stands for the value we share to growing our own vegetables organically. Hope as increasing our knowledge in the crops thanks to the format that promotes attentive listening. Charity is the activist component. It's about simple attentive listening to each other, and this is the key to mutual understanding and respect. What we do is we have rounds of listening to each other without interruption. The team could be preparing for the next growing season. We pass on the wooden spoon. Once you hold the spoon, you may speak. After 6 rounds, the group gets settled and people feel more at their ease. Now the way is paved for constructive discussion on issues involving our preparations. The facilitator who actively takes part may be required to take some notes at discussion stage. So the benefits of growing together. It helps to appreciate the gifts of Mother Nature, our own responsibility towards sustaining our health and well-being. Helps us to develop other initiatives we would like, but most of all, it's about having fun and putting your worries aside. A comparison with conventional committee form. In ordinary committees...
Sorry, Jeroen, just giving you your 1-minute warning, okay?
In ordinary committees, the talkers rule while the listeners follow on a consensus between the talkers. With the FHC format, the listeners rule and the consensus is evenly shared. In ordinary committees, it is the executives who dominate the agenda. There's always a hidden agenda because of power issues. FHC format provides an opportunity to influence the agenda. No hidden agendas. But most of all, the FHC group format provides an opportunity for the marginalized to independently, socially reintegrate also on grassroots level. This is very important. So the benefits of the national school development, the potential. It has potential to get other communities, groups, and individuals involved. Cooperate with teachers, we wish to that in teaching staff, we wish to pass on the tested knowledge to our children. We care for the future of our children, and this could help to make life on the island more sustainable. The potential of Know What You Eat. We have translated the FHC group format and the way we work into community group constitution as required by Westmead Community Development Company. This will enable us to create a credit union account and to become a member of the Westmead Public Partnership Network. I appeal to local development companies and Community Work Ireland to set up and possibly facilitate like-minded grassroots self-help groups for the purpose of also involving marginalized who are persecuted by the psychiatric means. A big thank you for your attention.
Brilliant, Jeroen. Thank you so much. That's really interesting. And the chat has been busy with people who want your presentation. So I think you'll find some like-minded people in the breakout rooms there.